So, Larry, there's been some breaking news from the USDA concerning the Coronavirus Food Assistance Program. Now, you made a video about a month ago when they first came out with the whole program, but here recently, they've come out with a whole bunch of new information. What's going on? What is the details that we need to get out of this?
Well, John, as you mentioned, I think it's been like 5 weeks ago on a Friday afternoon, there was an announcement of this $19 billion food assistance program. And so what happened was they said we'll be announcing, and in that video I made a remark that they were going to start taking applications in late May and then try to late May, early June, start sending out checks. And actually I was guilty. I went back and looked at that video, and whenever it said, middle, late May for applications and late May, early June checks, and at the end of it, I qualified it and said, check-wise depend on late June. And I think that's going to be correct. So what I want to do here today is give an update from that video and go through some detailed information. We're going to be looking at some screenshots. But more importantly, when we get this done, this is to make each farmer aware of, if I'm a cattle farmer, what's in it for me, if I'm into wool or dairy, what am I looking at?
Right.
So this is more the mechanics, the numbers, but also what's going to happen is that on May 26th, they're going to start taking applications. So before we did this video, not only are we looking at what's on the internet, and as I said before, I'm a farmer I raise Angus beef. So I have cow-calf pairs. So I'm interested too.
Right. This affects you.
Right. And so in this video, I'm kind of like one of us, we the farmers. But in doing it, I've actually been talking to some of the farm service agency locations. And as we do this video, they've received zero training. So my first concern before we do a deep dive into this is the fact that we get next Tuesday. And, if you're watching this video after, May 26th, this goes all the way to August 28th.
Wow.
So there's a plenty of time here. They're only going to be, they originally talked about one check. They've got a whole formula. We'll get to that later, but they're not going to just push out like they did with the PPP, just push all the money out and run out of money. So my first remark is we've got a little time here. And so the goal of today is to say, based on what type of farmer I am, then, again, what kind of benefit because of COVID-19 and because of the market drop, what kind of numbers am I looking at? And then in our next video, once they release the calculator, we're going to be doing a presentation on the calculator, because when you go then in, or a lot of this will be done virtual. You're going to be calling into the, farm service agency, your local one. Laura, you did a video on, the one about be sure and get signed up, get your email there, get your direct deposit in there. So please go out and, see Laura's video, kind of introducing this video. You can see that below. But I think the important thing is for us to get a plan in this video and then walk through it and really understand what we're looking at. But the thing we got to also understand, think about it. I'm on behalf of farm service agent, that is it. Think about it. We're toward the end of a week, and Tuesday they start taking applications, and what happens is they're just now getting trained. Literally a business day before they're taking the applications.
Wow.
So that's kind of where I'm going. Is one, we're going to help you estimate what you should be getting. Now, that will be in the calculating video that follows this video, but it's not to test the farm service agent. It's to assist and make sure we're in the ballpark. And over the last 2 or 3 days since this was announced, we've been talking to different county agencies, and we're getting a very different feedback on what counts and what doesn't count. So this is kind of like any other new program. It's not we don't trust the farm service agent. It's the fact we want to assist. So we want better information, and we also want to, again, double check to see if this is reasonable.
Sure.
Because, I look at these videos as almost like an advocacy. It's an advocate what's right. What should I as the farmer receive? I want what's mine. That's one of the things about American farming. They'll farm 24 hours a day and, lose everything in a drought or a natural disaster. Well, this is a different this is a natural disaster. But the thing about it is again, as we go through this is to educate and to help guide through this storm, so to speak. So with that, I've got my little tablet here, and I'm going to really start to look at the areas. And if we look here on the screen, the areas of the program, I'll move this down a little bit to make sure everybody can see. And in the future, I'll refer to this as either the Food Assistance Program or the Coronavirus Food Assistance Program, or as the CFAP. So it's all the same. So looking at this list, it says the eligible commodities include non-specialty crops, barley, granola, corn, cotton. It's your normal thing as you really think as a crop. You think of soybeans and oats and corn, etc. So there is a grid and shows what was the decline. Then we'll look at wool, livestock, dairy, and then the specialty crops. And actually, since our last video, most of the questions I'm getting is out of these specialty crops, fruit, vegetables, nuts, and then others. So, and oh, by the way, Laura, whenever I get over to the specialty crops, there's many of these that I'm growing in my garden. There's only problem. We eat them. So, for example, I have asparagus, I have broccoli, I have cabbage, I have carrots, I have sweet corn, cucumbers planted, eggplant. So I have a whole bunch of these. But the important thing, and I've actually got some calls on this, people are trying to say, well, I've got this, do I qualify? It's called you have to be in the business of. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's very important. But again, we're going to kind of, through this presentation, we're going to start going in different areas here and give you an overview of, what are you looking at as far as some kind of payment from the government for COVID-19 impact on our losses from the market, and I can speak personally. What happened is that I thought the prices would be dropping. I had some animals that I was to the point of what I raised them to. So back in March, it wasn't a matter of knowing about this program. I had to sell, right at 300 yearlings because in my program, the feed and the cost was getting to a point that it was greater than the pounds gained from that, and they needed to be moved on to backgrounding or to a feedlot. So when I pulled the trigger on that, when I actually said I've got to sell, it wasn't based on, was it a good price? It wasn't a good price, because the slaughterhouses were closing down and the feedlots. This is a whole process, So feedlots are shipping to the cattle in, from people like myself into the feedlot. The feedlot then ships it on over, to the slaughterhouses. And when they closed down, it was just like plugging up a pipe. It just stopped. And in doing so, the prices just tanked. Mm-hmm. So this is all about, again, directly related to COVID-19. So with that, what I like to do is actually I'm going to switch over to the detail. But the other thing I want to say, and I'll repeat this at the end of the program, is that from what I kind of want to step back again and look at the process from start to the end as an overview. And the reason why I'm doing that, because from what we can tell from talking to different, farm service agents, and again, they're not always consistent in their answer, but it's kind of like it's kind of like a dartboard. You throw darts at it, and right there's a whole bunch of darts focused right there. So that's got to be pretty close. So this is not where I've got some connection to Washington, but this is dealing with the people that do this every day for a living. Is that what's going to happen? Many of these are going to be by telephone, or you can go directly online to the calculator, and you're going to start, they're saying within a week, but let's say a couple of weeks, you're going to start getting checks. You know the reason why I'm pausing? Because it's not the end of the story. Getting the check is to help farmers survive. But late summer, early fall will start the audit cycle. They're going to come out, and for example, if you say I sold 50, yearlings,
right,
you better have a receipt for selling 50 yearlings. If they, they're not going to check every farmer,
right?
They're not going to check every corn bin, but they're going to spot check, and based on that, if compliance is there, then what happens is the other farmers may not see as many audits. So this is not just a free pass. So so again, stepwise, starting on May 26th, and again, this runs through, I believe, August 28th, you're going to be able to go online, or you may be able to do a phone call. I know a couple of the local offices, they're creating a list for callbacks, and there'll be interviews, and they'll fill the forms out for you, and then you get a check. But again, that's to get the money where it's needed now, but there's going to be audits late summer, early fall. And so, again, it's going to be show me your sales between the period we're going to talk about here, and show me your inventory. If it's your cattle, I want to go count them. If it's your corn, I want to see what did you have stored. If you didn't store it, then you sold it. And so, again, a word of caution. Document, and as I say in tax law, the third most important thing is document. And then, you know what? You're okay.